Check this.
Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be about what Steven Crowder should have said in the last video about Change My Mind and socialism is evil. In my last video, I kind of presented Yusef's argument that he used to sort of confound Steven Crowder. You can watch my previous video and you can see the actual interview, but the argument goes the following way. If you believe in closed borders and not mass immigration within a country, and you believe in no minimum wage, then you have a problem, because if you have a capitalist who wants to grow their business, one of the ways that a capitalist does this is by reducing their costs. The easiest way to reduce costs is to reduce the cost of labor. And the way you reduce the cost of labor is you can bring in immigrants that are going to be willing to work for less money and also will compete for that talent pool. As you bring in more people, what will happen is the cost of that labor will go down. So this is the argument that was posed. Now, Steven couldn't address it, and he kind of failed altogether, but he should have been able to address it. The way you address this argument, and it's a very popular argument that's made by the left, where they don't really understand capitalism. The left will always see capitalism in the following perspective. They'll see it in sort of a Marxist perspective. And the way Marx viewed capitalism is he saw it as the exploitation of the workers. Well, a true capitalist isn't about exploiting their workers. They're about utilizing their workers. And that's a very different philosophy. Because a real capitalist, what they'll do is they'll try to get as much out of their employees as possible. They'll help their employees reach their full potential. And that means providing them the opportunities that they can, so that they can realize their full skill set. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by incentivizing them and allowing them to work. As a business owner, you know how much that employee is worth. And it's based on production. The more that employee can produce, the more value you can associate to that employee. So what ends up happening is, as employees become more valuable, well, you have the situation where those employees become something that your competitors will try to steal from you, because it's supply and demand. As the demand for talent is increased, the competition for that talent also increases. If you put all this effort into training your employees, teaching them the skills that they need to become fully realized, then it's a lot of investment. You put a lot of value, capital into those employees. And if they're just, your competitors say, wow, thank you for all that training, and steal those employees by enticing them with higher wages or whatever, then you'll lose those employees and you lost all that capital investment that you put into those employees. So what you have to do is you raise their wages as a means of maintaining those employees. So in a true capitalist system, you don't need a minimum wage, because you're constantly paying your employees more as they become more valuable and more productive parts of your company. Another thing, and this is really misunderstood by the left, is that the employees themselves represent the other end of the equation, of the capitalist equation. And the equation works like the following. You have the cost of producing the products. You have the price at which you sell, and the difference between those is your profit. As a good capitalist, your goal is to try to create profit. And the Marxist will always say, then you have to reduce your costs. That's not really the best way. You basically have to increase your sales. So the goal of a capitalist is to try to find hidden markets where they're going to get more sales. If they can increase their market and get employees that produce more, Well, they'll generate more profit. Here's a hidden market that most capitalists who are true capitalists will sort of take advantage of. I'm going to give you a story that'll explain how true capitalists see the employee part of the equation in terms of their business model. Back in 1914, Henry Ford stunned the world. At the time, the sort of minimum wage for what people earned in a factory situation was around $2.34. Henry Ford made a big announcement that shocked the country. That morning, Ford began paying his employees $5 a day. And as I said, the average minimum wage at that time was around $2.34. So this was more than twice what other automakers were paying to their staff. In addition, he decided to reduce the workday from 9 hours to 8 hours. So basically it became from a 60-hour work week to the standard 40 hours a week. Well, this was revolutionary. He must be nuts. This is crazy. Why would a capitalist do this kind of crazy thing? Ford came up with this new wage scale during a meeting with his managers. He wrote on the board the Ford wage standards, minimum pay of $2.34 for a 9-hour day. He tossed back the chalk and then said, "Figure out how much more we can give our men." The Ford executives worked all day, cautiously adding 25 cents per hour, then another 25 cents. Every so often, Ford walked back in and said, "Not enough," and walked back out. Finally, they had doubled the basic pay up to $4.80 per day. One man snapped, "Why don't you make it $5 a day and bust the company right?" "Fine," said Henry Ford, "we'll do that." So this is what Ford did. I mean, he not only doubled the wage, he went more than double the average pay. Obviously, Ford was insane, right? But no, he wasn't, because he saw a hidden market. Now, he had to increase the productivity of these employees a lot with his whole assembly line method of producing cars. And one of the things that happened was that year, he ended up producing more cars than all of the other car companies combined. He was producing around 200,000 cars in 1914. By 1915, he was producing 500,000 cars. So why was he producing all these cars? Well, the demand for those cars had increased because all of a sudden the employees could afford to buy the cars. He had basically created his own customer base. He paid his employees well. They earned enough to basically buy the products that they were producing. But he didn't lose sight of the true capitalist thing. You can't just pay people more than what they're worth. You always pay them less than the value that they're producing. That's where you get your profit. You have to have profit or your business will go out of business. So he saw that there was a potential for a new market within his own people. And that was revolutionary. What happened is if you increase the minimum wage through government policy, what ends up happening, the capitalist cannot properly maintain profit. The capitalist can determine what that wage should be. They can raise the wages of their employees. But when that is taken out of their hands and a minimum wage is imposed upon them, that lack of flexibility where they can't determine the value of those employees, it can destroy the whole business because they can all of a sudden be paying more for those employees than really what the value is that they're producing. It's a very delicate balance that the capitalist really has to maintain and control. So this is the point that should have been explained by Steven Crowder to Yusef, where a good capitalist, one that really understands the situation, he's not going to want to bring in cheap labor from overseas or from wherever because he wants to increase the value of the people within his own country because those are going to be the potential consumers of his products. And if all capitalists have the same kind of philosophy that they want to increase earning potential of the consumers within their own country or market, then what's going to happen is by increasing how much wealth of the workers, well, those workers become the consumers of your products. And your competitors or your companies that are like-minded to yours in terms of this philosophy, well, they're going to also produce your potential consumers as well, because they're lifting their workers up, and they're going to be able to invest or buy products that you're selling. So what you want to do as a good capitalist is make your country do better, increase the standards within your country, because that's going to create the most wealth for you, because you're creating that consumer base to buy your products and to pay more for your products, because you're increasing the demand, because you're increasing the supply of money within that country. So this is some basic capitalism 101 that people don't understand, and they can use. If you understand this, you can address these kind of socialist ideas and really diffuse them, because what the goal is to make your country great and not to bow to socialist values of mass immigration, bringing in the lowest common denominator, bringing in people who are going to erode your country. You want to have a strong consumer base, not one that's been watered down by people who won't pay for your products. Make sense? Hope so. This has been Socially Triggered. I'd like to hear your comment and feedback about this video. It's a little bit longer. It was a little bit of a story involved. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And please tell other people about this channel. I really need it to grow. Thank you.